guardian, keeper on the highways. What is a police officer doing on the highways? I had the sheriff in Roseman, California, 7 months ago, made a confession in my front yard because I confronted him with the fact that the sheriff at one time was a common law office. And now it has been compromised. And he said, I know that, John. And I said, then what does that make you? And he kind of looked a little embarrassed, looked down at things a little bit. He said, I'm a revenue officer for the bureaucrats. You deserve the drug dealers in your neighborhood, people, because your cops are out playing revenue officers for bureaucrats. You deserve to have your daughters raped and your sons violated by homosexuals. You deserve to have your wife attacked on some street corner and have her property seized and be beaten to a pulp. You yourself, as the head of household, deserve to be strung up and have unseemly things done to your person in the private parts. We are all guilty of having redefined what a law enforcement officer is, and thus we don't have anyone to blame but ourselves. And the conservatives, with their intellectual stupidity, who are always concerned about seizing the moment, seizing the agenda and everything else, have, since 1868, utterly botched the job of even understanding where history's going. I think some of the guys have probably already talked about what happened with the 14th Amendment. I'm going to rehash it just a minute before I close. The 14th Amendment of these United States was passed in 1868. It was the first Civil Rights Act. Now, of course, in order to get it onto the floor of the Senate, they had to unconstitutionally unseat several senators. And all this is a matter of public record. It's not my opinion. You can read the congressional record where it's all been rehashed. You can read court decisions where it's been rehashed and everything else. They go through it. Everybody knows that the 14th Amendment was unconstitutionally passed. And that all the southern states were held under gunpoint to guarantee their signatures, the signature of their legislators, you see. The entire 14th Amendment was a fraud perpetrated at gunpoint on the American people. Now, the historians and the boys out there in Hollywood, and the girls, I guess, too, and various other individuals in the media will all tell us that the 14th Amendment gave citizenship to black people. And the American dream is now possible for them. The biggest damn lie that ever came down the pike. Because what the 14th Amendment did, it gave citizenship not as a right, but as a privilege to non-whites. Read Title 42, Section 1981 sometime. Go to your local library and pull it down and read it. You'll get the whole story in there. And all these liberals, neo-Marxists, left-wing, and pseudo-compassionate conservatives who are so concerned about the rights of minorities in this country are liars. They are vipers. They are thieves, robbers, and rapists of the worst sort. Because what the Congress could have done in 1868 was very simply said, the rights, privileges, and immunities of the common law shall not be denied to any person on account of race. But then if they had done that, they would have given black people and every other minority in this country citizenship as a right of birth and not a privilege. Now, why is it important? Because in American law, only privileges can be taxed. Rights cannot be taxed. Only privileges, benefits, or opportunities can be taxed. Hundreds of court cases to substantiate that. The only trick for the Congress was, okay, let's see, we got all the Negroids, we've got all the Orientals, and some of these South Sea Island tribes. We got the Indians taken care of. How do we get them whites out there, man? That's the next thing we got to do. Get the whites. Get the whites to do what? To voluntarily give up their rights, that's what. Because they can't take them away from you. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. Problem's all taken care of. Let's see. The United States government owes it, and every American is entitled to Social Security. Everyone is entitled to Social Security. It isn't going to cost you that much. 1%, half maybe, 2%. It wasn't the fact that it only cost you 1.5 or 2%, and the fact that you deserve or don't deserve Social Security wasn't the problem. It was a contract, people. A contract. And as soon as the white people in this country signed their life, liberties, and properties over to the federal government through the 1938 Social Security Tax Act, it was over and done with. The New World Order had already arrived. It had all the power it needed. It had all the legislative history it needed. And it had the full cooperation of the American people. It was already here. Because you would not have this man known as Jesus Christ to rule over you. You preferred the providence of a politician to the law of God. And as to whether anyone here would step outside the hall tonight, or whether in here he would pledge his life, his fortune, and his sacred honor, that's not a question I can ask. And it's not a demand that I can make of anyone. As to whether liberty is worth dying for, I'm not sure there's enough Americans that are committed or even understand what it is. But I know what happened at Lexington and Concord. And they apparently believed that it was worth it. Because Hancock and Adams sneak into the home of Jonas Clark the night before the British came down the road through Lexington to Concord to seize the arms and powder there. And they snuck into Pastor Clark's house because they wanted a couple of questions answered. Will they stand? Do they know their Christian duty? You see, the theology of John Knox was very well taught in America, and Pastor Clark affirmed the fact that they all knew their John Knox. And Knox very simply said, no Christian can engage in aggressive warfare. The only kind of warfare in which a Christian can engage is in defense of a just cause, and then only after his blood has been shed. Pastor Clark assured them that they understood Knox fully. The next morning, the British come marching down the road to Concord. And the 70-odd men stood there on the green at Lexington. The history books don't often tell you this, but it was the green in front of the Lexington Congregational Church. And the commander of the Grenadiers ordered them to disperse. And they did not. And they all stood there with their weapons at ease. 3 times he ordered them to disperse. Then he ordered his men to assume a position, and they cut them down. Our father's men returned one volley and retired from the field. And to this day, the historians don't understand why that happened. I've never seen a Hollywood portrayal of that event. I can tell you why it happened. For all of us who know our Christian history, it happened very simply because they preferred to die for the rights of God than the privileges of men. But they had to first voluntarily shed their blood and allow their lives to be taken. So they stood there on the green at Lexington and they wet it with their blood and gave up their life